talks about giving.
Welcome back. We are COMP1116, that's Game Programming 3 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian, and it's week 3, part 1 of our broadcast and recording. And I'm just going to check levels here. Yes, looks like it's pretty good. So we're sitting at week 3. Last week we talked about blueprints in more depth, and we also did a little bit of C++ with Unreal Engine. Some people fared well, some people did not with that whole thing. But anyway, either way, your marks are in. So unless you forgot to share your DevOps project with me, then your marks should all be up and kind of updated. For the most part, everyone did well. Couple things that I keep noticing just in general is what to say when you're having your little video. Keep it formal, keep it nice. Say hi, this is your name and so on, and then go into things like this is demonstrate the stuff that's working. Don't just show me your DevOps. If you just show me DevOps, oh yeah, here's my stuff on DevOps. That doesn't do anything for me. Okay, I want to see your project working in the editor. Okay, if I don't see the project working in the editor, I will not provide marks next time. Okay, so that's something that I want to definitely see. Okay, so last week we did a little bit more, kind of a deep dive into how to put things together with C++ and so on. This week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about montages, animation montages. Have you guys done that with Steve at all yet? So I'll be jumping the gun a bit. I'll be a bit ahead of him when it comes to this. We'll also talk about the player animation blueprint, how that works, and what's the difference between an animation blueprint and a regular blueprint. We'll talk about that, right? We'll also talk about how we can cause damage with line traces, right? Using a line trace. A line trace is like ray tracing. That's what it is, like casting a ray in Unity, if you're familiar with that. And then we'll set up our enemy. It won't do anything right now. There won't be any movement, but we will complete drone movement next week in terms of like patrolling. We'll talk about how to make a drone patrol around, all that stuff. This in-class exercise, again, is due this Friday at midnight. Should not be that difficult, and I think this one will be a little bit quicker than some of the other ones. So we'll start off with what is an animation sequence. So in Unreal Engine, an animation sequence is basically your animation itself, right? So the actual animation clip. So in Unity, it might be called a clip, an animation clip or whatever, but on Unreal Engine, it's called an animation sequence. Again, I invite you to please look at the fine document that they've provided. I think it's pretty good in terms of how an animation sequence works and all that kind of stuff. I think looking at the documentation is important. Okay, you can see that here what they've got is in this image, they've got a skeleton, which is the rig, as an example, and then what you have in the bottom is your animation sequence itself. We're going to be talking later on about retargeting animations. When we get into the second half of semester, we'll talk about how to retarget properly and all that stuff. And then it talks about how to import stuff and a bunch of other things that we're not going to do today. Okay, this is some stuff that we already have that we're going to be using. So I'm going to get out of there. But that's where the documentation is for an animation sequence. Again, you might know it as an animation clip if you're a Unity person. So it requires a skeletal mesh. So there's two different kinds of meshes you'll be dealing with typically. One is a static mesh. A static mesh is basically a rock or a building or some kind of item that doesn't really move and doesn't require any additional parts attached to it. There's no modularity to it. It's just something that snaps in place and that your character might see as part of the scenery or the environment. A skeletal mesh is something that requires additional movement. It can be used as animation. And our gun, if you remember last time, had an animation mesh built into it. And the reason why is because if you wanted to snap on a scope, you need a snap point, right? You need some kind of things like that. So if you need points where you're going to modularly attach things, you need to make it a skeletal mesh. Okay, this is the thing about this. All right, so that's what that is. Okay, and then we're going to get right into it. Animation sequence components, right? Again, we have a bunch of different things in here, and like I said, on the left, you'll see when we open it up in a second, a bone hierarchy. Okay, we've seen this before already. And then there's the timeline at the bottom. And then at the top, you can see that there's the actual editor preview. Okay, so this is what you're going to see, 3 things here. And I'm mentioning these things so you understand. You could attach keyframes into your animation down here, and later on this semester, what we'll be doing is modifying our animation clip in editor, right? Which is the way to go, I think, here in Unreal Editor. Now, if we're going to go with Unity, I'm not sure that I would modify stuff in Unity directly if I was going to do a comparison. I might do things in your, your 3D graphics program itself. For example, Blender or Maya, if I was going to do it there for Unity. But for Unreal Engine has some great tools. That's one thing I love about it, and it'll allow us to do stuff very, very cleanly inside of the editor itself. What we're going to get is we're going to get all these new assets. So until we do this, instead of watching me do this on PowerPoint, let's do a couple things. Let's set up our project for today. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to minify all this stuff. Last day, what we did was we started with the project, the starter. But this day, we want you to start with what you did last day. So the way to do that, of course, is to go up on DevOps. So let's go to DevOps. So here's my link, dev.azure.com, and let's just go properly to DevOps. I'll be okay. There we go. I've bookmarked it. I recommend you do the same. And then I'm going to go into my project here. And in this project, again, if you remember, I had in-class exercise 2. That was from last day, right? So what I want to do is I want to clone in-class exercise 2, and I want to continue from here as opposed to starting over. Now, before we do this, there's some tricks, okay? Tricks. One, remember last day that in-class exercise 2 required and we use C++, which means we're always going to have a source folder in our new folders, whether we use more C++ in the future or not. Okay, that's one thing to note. Right, so it's going to be more of a complex project just simply because of that. Okay, so clone gives us the link. That's all it does. It just gives us the link to clone. Okay, so that is one thing that we can do. It'd be nice if we could clone directly in Visual Studio, and you can see that we can, but I don't recommend that you do. Okay, and I'll talk about why in a bit. But because we're not talking about a regular project, we're talking about a project that is an Unreal project, so there might be some stuff that is lost. So what we need is this link. Okay, so now we need a place to put everything. So now going back to our operating system, what I would do is go to that place that you've got your in-class exercise 1, which is here, right, as an example, and this is where I'm going to put in-class exercise 3. However, I can't clone in-class exercise 2 here. Why is that? Yes. I have 2 of them already, right, which means it's going to mess up. Don't put it here, okay? You need to put it somewhere else first and then transfer it in here if you're going to do it. So I'm going to go back out one step to around here, right, and this is where I'm going to do it. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal window. Again, you can do this in a number of different ways. If your terminal supports, if you want to do open in terminal, if it supports that, that's great. You can also open a command prompt and navigate there with CD space and drag and drop like I've shown you before. That is definitely an option, right? But here I'm in the proper window. I want to issue this command. Okay, now it's kind of hard to see, but it's git clone. So git clone, and then followed by the link that you're going to get. Okay, so again, to get the link, you're going to go back up here to this place. I'm going to grab the link right here by clicking this little button right here, copy clone URL to clipboard, and then navigate back to that window and right click. Okay, and then when I do that and press enter, it should clone your repo right directly onto your folder. Now, I got to talk about this a bit. There's some issues. One, if you've never logged into the machine in front of you, you're going to have to log in again. Okay. The other thing is, if for whatever reason on your home machine, Git large file support is not supported, or you haven't installed Git properly, it will fail. It'll only give you half of the files, right? Because we're using Git large file support, you need to have it enabled in order for you to get all the large files. It just won't work. Okay, so I know this is a thing for some people. All right, so now that I've got that, I can close my PowerShell because I don't want it there, right? And if I go back, I have ICE2 right here. See, right here is ICE2. What I want to do is I want to rename this immediately to ICE3. Let's do that. So ICE3 is going to be renamed. There it is. Take a look inside. You can see that there's the same project files that we had before. Okay. Plus there's a hidden .git folder here. Okay. And I'm going to talk about I'm going to ask you some questions in a second. I want to grab this file, so I'm going to cut it. There it is. I'm going to cut that file off and put it inside of my, wherever I'm keeping my files for you guys. So it's here. So there's my paste. There it is. And now it's in the right folder. Okay. So each individual one of these has their own Git hidden .git folder, right? So does this one. But there's a problem. Can anyone tell me what the problem would be if I was trying to push to DevOps again? Yes?
It's still connected to the second one?
It's still the remote, the right way to say it is, the remote still points to my previous DevOps repo. The remote, this still has that remote. And the way to test this is if we open this up, okay? And if I open this up in terminal, again, just like normal, and if I issue the following command, git remote -v, right? Git remote -v. This is the command for this. I'll wait for you guys to catch up so I can see some of you are still doing it. Git remote -v. And if you issue that command, you're going to get this. You're going to see that it's pointing to ICE2. Okay, that's where it's pointing. We don't want this. So there's an easy way to do this. We're going to remove the remote, and we're going to add back a new one that we're going to create now. So the way to do this, of course, would be to git remote remove, that's RM, and then origin, the name of the remote. Git remote remove RM origin. That's what it is. RM is just remove, a shortcut for remove. Okay, and then press enter. When you do that, now the remote has been removed, right? And now we need to put a new one back. The way to do that, of course, would be back here. We're going to make a brand new repository, and we're going to call this ICE3. Like always, remove the add a README file checkbox. This would be unchecked. Don't add a checkbox. That would fail every time if you had that in. And then click create. So no checkbox, create. And then when you do that, you're going to get steering instructions again, a little link that's going to, kind of get you in there, right? So I'm going to copy this link. That's what I'm going to do. Copy the link. And I'm going to go back to my project, and I'm going to right-click and click paste anyway, which is going to add the new link, right? So if I press enter, what it's going to do is everything works well. It should push everything to back into that new remote. Now, warning, I've got to tell you something. Sometimes this fails, okay? And what that means is we instead of keeping all of our commits from last time, they're going to be lost, and we'd have to start up a brand new repository with the files. And the way to do that, of course, is to remove the hidden .git folder. This is perfectly acceptable for you guys for in-class exercise 3. If I only had like the new commits, I'd be okay, all right? But if you want to keep, like right here, see what happened right here? Where it says, hint, your push was rejected due to missing or corrupt local objects. This is what I'm talking about here, okay? So the reason why this happens, and now this normally wouldn't happen if I was using Git and GitHub, and if I was using a non-Unreal Engine project, this may not happen. But because I'm using Unreal Engine hasn't kicked off yet. We never did that, right? So there's pieces of Unreal Engine that it's missing. And so it's trying to reference stuff that doesn't exist. And that's why it's doing this. Now you might think, well, what if we launch Unreal Engine and then we do it? It would be worse, actually. Because now when we launch Unreal Engine, it changes. We're in a different folder, blah, blah. So this is neat. This is good, right? Well, we can't keep the Git folder. I'm just letting you know, this is the normal way. What I issue, the command that I issued by removing the remote and putting a new one on is proper. But it won't work for us, okay? I'm just letting you know. So back to the drawing board. If we can't do that, if I go back to this, what we want to do is we want to remove the hidden.git folder. Again, if you cannot see the hidden.git folder, you can see it by going to View, and at the bottom, Show, and then Hidden Items will reveal it, and then from there you can right-click and remove it. So just remove it. So right-click or just click it and delete it, and it's gone. Okay, so once we've done this, all we're doing when we remove the hidden.git folder is we're saying, there's no more Git repository. It's gone. We have to create a new one again from scratch. So again, I would do the same thing. Let's do that from scratch. Here we go. So open in terminal, and I'm going to do the first command, which is, what's the first command when we create a new Git repository? Git init. Git init. Git init. You guys will get this. Git init creates a brand new empty repository. I don't know why, but there's every other monitor except for yours is off. Hold on a second. Let's try this again. It's really weird today. Let's try that one more time. There we go. So git init. If I press enter, then you can see that it creates this new repository. The next command is git add dot. That was your correct command. Git add dot. Git add dot adds everything, and because we have a git ignore file, because we have that, it will also ignore our certain files, and also because we have a git attributes file, when it adds, it'll also keep track of all the stuff we're using for Git large file support. Then the next one is git commit, right? And we want to issue an initial commit, right? Because this is our first commit, and then press enter. So it's usually initial commit or first commit. Those are our two options traditionally. I'm just going to go up to that so you can see that command. You can see there's a lot of files it added. Here it is. So those are the three commands: git init, git add dot, git commit -m, initial commit. You should be there with me now. Now wait for you guys to catch up. All right. And while we're waiting, I'm just going to see if I can turn this monitor on. Maybe I can. Maybe I can't. Seems to be completely fun. What we're going to do, I'm going to turn it on and up. Power. So the other side. That's what happened. There's no. Okay. Difficult than I thought. Get in there. That's just not connecting. And I can't get it. And it should go in here like this.
You need some small games. Really?
I'm not that fat, don't worry. This is good. Let's try that again now. Should have progress. Yes, we do have progress. So I'm going to go back, and then I go back to forward, and that should do now. Should do everything. There we go. All right. Whew. My own technical support. So now that we've got these three commands, git init, git add, dot, and git commit, the last one is a git branch. So it's git branch minus capital M main, and what this does is it says your default branch is going to be main. That's what it is. That's the default branch. Okay, and press enter. So that's the thing. Now we can again grab that link from our repository, right? Because that's the new link we got from over here. So I'm going to grab it again. So I'm going to go back to this, grab that link, right? Come back to our terminal and right click. It's going to ask me if I'm okay with pasting. I'm going to say yes. and then press enter, and now it should not give me any errors. Should not. Let's see. We're also trying to do this all together, which means we're all hitting it all at the same time. There we go. And if everything goes well, we should not have an issue at the bottom. And I mean that because, by the way, we may have an issue at the bottom. And I'll tell you why. Sometimes what happens is we have to switch to HTTP 1 with respect to Azure. Azure has a funny way of doing certain things, and we don't have to do it yet, but we may in the future. Give it a second. You can see that it's validating still, and it's still not ready. There we go. Now that's what I wanted to see. And that means that in-class exercise 3 now is ready. Okay, it's ready for us to receive more. You should be at this stage right now. Are you with me? Yeah.
Should we not have a content folder in the repository?
You should have a content folder. Here's something else. What if, just putting it out there, you couldn't finish in-class exercise 2 and you can't continue? You can always use my in-class exercise 2 if you want to continue to the next one. Take into in-class exercise 3. Somehow, if let's say you're in-class exercise 2, you didn't finish, because that would be like a showstopper for you. Like, you know, you didn't finish, and so how are you going to do this one if you didn't do the previous one? Okay. All right, so now that we've got everything ready to go, let's launch. This is the next step that we have to figure out. Let's launch our project. So I'm going to double click on this thing right here. Now, if I do double click, if it needs to set stuff up, like for example, the solution file says the following modules are missing or built with a different engine, would you like to rebuild them now? So this is actually going to do a full rebuild, right here. And that's okay. And it should work, okay? If it doesn't, if it says, oh, by the way, you need to also, because you have sources, you should also have a solution file and whatever, that might be something you need to do as well, okay, in the future, just letting you know. So again, you can show log here, right? You can show log and see what this looks like. And it'll tell you if it fails or not. But I wanted to show you this, like the full build, so you understand if there's any issues whatsoever. And you can see here, so far, no issues. All right, so we're pretty good. Now, if I want to take a look at my classes, like for example this one, right? If I double click onto it, just to review what we did last time, it will bring up on a Visual Studio. So this is what we had last time. Okay, you can see that brought that up. Okay. However, if I go back to my folder structure, I don't know what's going on today. It's okay. We're gonna put them back. There we go. If we go back to our folder structure, you can clearly see there's not a solution file in sight, okay? So even though it opens it, doesn't mean that it's correct. So what do we need to do? Let's close this one off, okay? And then here, if I let's close also Unreal Engine for a second, one more time, all right? And I'm showing you the stuff that's missing, okay? Then I can go here, and if I want to go to show more options, I want to generate Visual Studio project files. And this, my friends, is what we should do all the time because of sources. If we don't generate Visual Studio project files, you won't have the proper SLN file here, which means, like this one, see how it got generated? Which means if I was going to try and launch from Visual Studio, right, and I'll try this right now, if I double click on this now, it should show me a different thing. What we saw before when we launched, we didn't see this screen. See that how it says like, loading project 1 of 52? We didn't see that. And if we don't see that 1 of 52, which means it's not connected properly to Visual Studio. And later on, if we ever want to launch Unreal Engine, it will fail. Okay? So that's a problem. So on that then, to prove to you that it all works, we should always prove that everything's working first before we continue to add stuff. Otherwise, imagine if we keep on adding and all of a sudden it never worked. Like that would be bad, right? We waste all this time and then we're trying to, and by the way, this can happen to you if you're doing a build for your game for this semester, right? You're building, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, it's not launching from Visual Studio. Oh crap, I never built sources. Oh, this is bad. So I want to try this by Control F5, right? Again, with Unreal Engine's editor closed, I should be able to issue a Control F5, and it should launch Unreal Engine. But sometimes what you'll get is something that looks like this, right? Where it failed. And why did it fail, right? It really depends on your system is the answer, right? So if you're set up properly, now this is where it says could not write to Epic Games. This is the error that we're getting here, right? Take a look. Could not write to Epic Games, blah, 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 access path, whatever. You know, this Unreal Build Tool XML is denied, right? If you ever get this error, this Unreal Build Tool, there's a couple things you can try, okay? One thing you can try is on the build folder, right? You could try and clean solution. See where it says clean solution? You could try that, all right? What clean solution does is it erases all the files in the build folder. Again, this is done with Unreal Engine's editor closed, my friends, okay? So that's what it does. It wipes out all those files, okay? So it kind of starts from scratch, like almost like the whole build process from scratch. And then, of course, you know, there is the other option, which is removing all those extra folders and then, you know, regenerating the files and doing it again, which we may have to do, all right? Like it's part of our life cycle, unfortunately. Wait till this is done. You can see that this is still doing its wipe away for me, okay? If it's done for you, try launching the engine again, the Unreal Editor, by doing Control F5. Again, we want a connection between Visual Studio and Unreal Engine Editor because we want to make sure that the C++ is working properly, okay? So do that. Okay, now if it doesn't work again, you know what to do. Clean up your files and go there. Now, on a machine, I'll tell you right now, on the machine at home, the one I set up at home, where I have more control than the one I have here, right? I never, and I mean that, ever have to do that. It's here at the school that we have a problem. Take a look, right? And we have a problem here at the school because of a number of reasons, but mainly it's because we don't have admin rights. That is the main reason why we're having these issues, right? And IT, which is on strike right now, is not going to be able to help us. I can't do anything about it. We just have to deal with it, right? Normally, I report all this to IT and get it fixed, right? But right now, we can't. Here's another thing I want to tell you. So I don't know if you guys cleaned your project yet, and if it's all cleaned up, or is it still stalling like mine, right? So what do you do in that case if it stalls? Well, it's the good old, you know, if you go to build, you can always cancel your action. If you go to build and cancel. So cancel actually cancels the clean, right? Give Visual Studio a chance to, you know, stop gracefully. Okay, you don't want Visual Studio you don't want to Alt F4 from Visual Studio. It might cause other weird side effects, you know, unless you really have to, like truly have to. Then you can start over and all that stuff, right? So that's the first thing. So yeah, so you want to issue this cancel. Sometimes the cancel won't issue. You know what I'm saying? You can't see what's going on in the background, and then you have no choice. So if you ever get to this spot and you're working at school or you're working from home, you know, as an example, then you may not have a choice but to issue an Alt F4, right? And Alt F4 should shut down your project. But guess what? Visual Studio will stop you as well. The build must be stopped before the solution can be closed, right? Well, it won't even stop the build. So how do you do that? You can do Control-Shift-Escape. Control-Shift-Escape will pull up the task manager. Control-Shift-Escape, top left. Yeah. And then on the task manager, again, this is all stuff we have to think about. There's Visual Studio. We can right-click here and end task, and we will forcefully close down Visual Studio. Now, guys, when we've done this kind of rash action, we need to kill all this intermediate saved binaries and derived data cache stuff. We need to kill all these and rebuild from scratch. So the first thing, again, I would do is right-click and go to Show More Options, Generate Visual Studio Project Files, right? That's what I would do, 100%. Okay, let's try that again. What did it give me? It says the running Unreal Build tool failed to run a self-contained app. The application was run as a self-contained app because C project get blah, 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 blah. What is it? Runtime. See, this is the crap that we get into, is not found. Okay, so what if now This is bad. This is what I'm saying. It never happens at home. Okay, it's here. So if I double click onto it, it'll also try and rebuild from scratch, and this may fail. So what do you do if this happens? What's the next course of action, my friends? Pull from DevOps again. Pull from DevOps again. Here's a good thing, right? We already pushed to DevOps one time. ICE 3 is already there, right? So here's something that you can do, you know, in DevOps. You could pull down everything in here again, right, and not worry. So this is where the clone command might be okay, because we have ICE 3 already. So let's try that. Let's try that one too. Again, these are all courses like recourse. We're having all these recourse actions just in case you get into this problem, and I'm trying to show you what I would do, which is good. I like problems are actually a good way of solving issues, right? So I'm going to right click and delete this project. And if it's telling you this, like it's in use, it's because probably this is open, right? So let's try that again. Try again. There we go. And then we can try that clone command again. So what I would do is open it up again, open in terminal, right? And I would issue a git clone, and then go back to your repo where it says clone, grab your link, go back here and enter. And the great thing is it should just work. All right, so it's not going to give you an issue in terms of the way it works. I'm just showing you this because I want you guys to be clear about all the possible mess ups that can occur. And so this way we can always fix it, you know, especially once we've made our, especially once we've done our, you know, push to DevOps. DevOps, my friends, is our savior when it comes to this kind of stuff, especially if you have a build that you have to produce next day for Rise, which is coming up, right? You don't want this to happen. So that's why I'm saying DevOps is the way to go. Please do not put it on Google Drive or something else. It would completely fail at this point if you tried that, okay? Okay, so here we are. We've got our DevOps folder. I can close this down now. And if I go back to this, you can see I've got ICE 3. This is all good. All the commits that we've done is already here. Now I just have to do the build. But first, I'm going to do this the right way this time. Instead of double clicking, I'm going to go to show more options, and I'm going to generate Visual Studio project files. That's the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, okay? Because that's important to do. And if it does this, failed to generate project files or whatever, what could this mean? What's the next step? Yes?
Double click on the Unity project for the file.
Don't do it. Don't do it, right? I'm saying if you get this project, if I try and rebuild, if I do something like this, and it shows me generate Visual Studio project files after I've downloaded from, you know, from thing, and it shows me this, here at the school, you know what this means? I need to reboot. That's what it means. Straight up, okay? Do not continue from this point. This is where, like I told you, Control-Shift-Escape, although it killed some stuff, maybe some other stuff is still going, right? So I could try that. I could do a Control-Shift-Escape and see if there's anything running, like in the background, like Visual Studio remnants, you know, in here. What a pain in the ass this would be, right? If you had to do this every single time. So, you know, instead of doing this, the right thing to do is I'm going to stop this recording and I'm going to leave and come back, and I will be fine, okay? So let's do that now. So I'll stop the recording. This is a good place for 8:30. Maybe the place is open for coffee. I don't know. Is it open now?
Tim's?
No, not Tim's. Tim's is garbage. Sorry.
Should be.
Huh?
Should be.
Tim's is dishwater, man. All right, come on. You have to be. Now that you're with me, I'm a Greek guy. You're Greek too, as a result. Okay, and because we're all Greek now together, right? We're all European. That's it, right? We have to have positive, good coffee, not the the garbaggio that is Tim. I'm sorry, Tim. If you're a Tim Hortons employee, I apologize ahead of time, but that's just the way it is. How I feel.
They make good laxatives.
The who?
Tim Hortons.
Laxatives. Okay, well, we don't want to care about that. So let's take a short break. I'm just going to stop